You know, I usually stay out of these conversations, but with Caitlin Clark, I can't stay silent anymore.
Asterisk, when a true legend speaks, the entire sports world pauses to listen. This time, Michael Jordan wasn't revisiting his own history, he was shining a light on Caitlin Clark, the rising force reshaping women's basketball shot by shot. A moment that stunned the crowd and visibly moved Clark, MJ offered a tribute that carried far more weight than applause alone. The reaction was instant, electric, and unforgettable. What did Jordan say that made the arena erupt? Strap in, this is a defining chapter in the rise of Caitlin Clark. When Michael Jordan steps into public conversations, especially outside the NBA, it's never casual, it's deliberate. And when that attention lands on a NBA rookie, the world takes notice. Jordan has historically spoken sparingly about the women's game, choosing instead to support from afar while expanding his influence through ownership, branding, and global reach in men's basketball. So when he acknowledges a talent like Clark, it's more than simple praise, it reshapes how greatness is perceived. Clark isn't merely piling up statistics. She's transforming the WNBA's visibility. Her presence has sparked record attendance and historic television ratings. With the Indiana Fever, she's turned overlooked matchups into sold-out spectacles, drawing over 1 million viewers per game. But her impact goes beyond numbers. It lives in the aftershocks. In cities where her games air regularly, youth basketball programs are surging. Camps are packed and young girls are picking up basketballs not just to play, but to be recognized. That influence mirrors what Jordan once accomplished on the men's side. In the 1990s, he didn't just dominate the court, he redefined basketball's global identity. Now, as the Jordan brand quietly expands partnerships with WNBA athletes, a new dimension of his legacy is taking shape. His business empire is evolving, aligning with the growing commercial power and cultural relevance of elite women athletes. The question is no longer whether women's basketball has value, it's how rapidly that value is growing, with Clark at the center of the momentum. So Jordan's public acknowledgement isn't random. His rare statements carry authority. They demand attention from fans, media, and brands alike. When he elevates someone, ignoring them becomes impossible. It's more than endorsement, less than mentorship, a transfer of cultural significance. Social media has only intensified that connection. Today, recognition doesn't live solely on award stages or TV interviews. Platforms like Instagram and TikTok allow stars to support each other instantly, creating narratives that cross leagues and break gender barriers. In that digital landscape, Jordan's recognition of Caitlin Clark didn't land quietly, it exploded. Becoming a defining moment that raced across the internet, corporate brands have moved fast to capitalize on the moment. Campaigns that pair male and female athletes aren't just about visibility anymore, they're about balance and shared impact, allowing fans to picture basketball excellence without boundaries. As more companies buy into this approach, legendary figures and rising stars are increasingly sharing the spotlight. Those intersections allow history and the future to collide, where a figure like Michael Jordan can legitimize a phenomenon like Caitlin Clark without needing to say much at all. And just when Jordan's words seemed impossible to top, two more icons stepped forward. Why did Larry Bird and Shaquille O'Neal suddenly offer their own unexpected praise? Stay with us. When basketball legends can't ignore Caitlin Clark, it matters. Larry Bird, a man known for understatement rather than spectacle, made a comment that carried far more weight than it first appeared. Speaking in his typically reserved manner, Bird admitted that last season he found himself watching Iowa games nearly as often as Indiana State, his alma mater and the starting point of his legendary path in the late 1970s. It wasn't dramatic or overstated, but coming from Bird, it was significant. He chooses his words carefully, and when he places Clark in the same mental space as the program tied to his own legacy, people take notice. What makes Bird's acknowledgement even more meaningful is the type of basketball he respects. He's never been drawn to hype. He values discipline, awareness, and smart decision-making. Those are the same qualities that define Clark's game. Her deep shooting range, sharp instincts, and ability to dictate tempo mirror the traits that once made Bird unstoppable. His comment wasn't casual admiration, it was respect for how the game should be played. That quiet recognition spoke loudly to anyone who understands how rare it is for women's basketball to earn the sustained attention of old-school legends. Then came Shaquille O'Neal, bold, expressive, and unapologetically loyal, adding his own voice to the growing chorus. Shaq's path to appreciating Caitlin Clark wasn't instant. Early in her WNBA career, his support leaned heavily toward Angel Reese, a player he's consistently backed in public. But as Clark continued to perform with composure, confidence, and high-level game control, something changed. It wasn't media hype that convinced him, it was what he saw firsthand. When he finally spoke, the shift was clear. "No, I'm not Shaq, I'm a fan," he said, setting aside his larger-than-life persona for a moment of honesty. He didn't stop at calling her talented. He explained his reasoning, pointing to her playmaking, her vision, and her ability to elevate teammates. He emphasized that her choices weren't just exciting, they were correct. Shaq has played alongside legends. He understands the difference between temporary buzz and lasting greatness. In Clark, he recognized the real thing. What made his praise even more powerful was how naturally it came despite his earlier position. He openly admitted that television doesn't always tell the full story, noting that Clark's game is even more impressive in person. Her movement, shot selection, and leadership translated seamlessly. Shaq wasn't chasing headlines, he was genuinely impressed by her intelligence, control, and maturity on the court. He made one thing unmistakably clear: what she's doing is far from ordinary. Praise from legends like Larry Bird and Shaquille O'Neal isn't just encouragement. It represents a deeper shift in how the game is viewed by the very people who once defined it. Their respect isn't driven by emotion or trends. It's rooted in basketball intelligence earned through decades of studying what separates good players from generational ones. And as the echoes of legendary approval continued to surround her, a question surfaced that stunned fans everywhere: why was Caitlin Clark left off Team US Olympic roster? Was there more beneath the surface? Let's dig in. When doubt becomes fuel, Caitlin Clark's quiet response began to take shape. There's a unique kind of silence that comes with being overlooked, not the hush of an empty arena, but the heavy pause you feel when your name never appears. Clark had faced pressure before, but missing the US Olympic team carried a different kind of weight. It wasn't only about a single competition. It was the message it sent, one that unsettled both supporters and critics. To many, it felt unthinkable. A player who had reignited passion for women's basketball, filled arenas, and shattered viewership records was suddenly absent from the world's biggest stage. It didn't add up. Still, not everyone saw it as a setback. Dwight Howard, whose own NBA career was marked by peaks and hard lessons, viewed it as a challenge, one that could ultimately work in her favor. "This should push her to work even harder," he said plainly, offering honesty instead of comfort. It wasn't an insult. It was a test. Howard understood what comes next. He'd watched countless athletes turn rejection into motivation, and he believed Clark would do the same. And perhaps that omission gave her something she hadn't had in a long time: room to breathe. Free from the grind of an Olympic schedule and the relentless spotlight that follows it, Clark found space to reset. Missing out on Paris allowed her to refine her game quietly. While attention shifted elsewhere, she stayed locked in the gym. Her drive wasn't performative, it was personal. The cameras didn't capture every extra rep or late-night film session, but the work was happening methodically, relentlessly. Not everyone stayed silent. Former NBA guard Jeff Teague voiced what many were thinking. From his perspective, the WNBA had mishandled a rare moment. "They completely misplayed this," he said, frustration evident. In his eyes, the league hadn't just failed to maximize Clark's presence, they distanced the very fans she brought with her. Arenas were selling out. Merchandise was moving fast. Social engagement was soaring. Yet her introduction to the league felt anything but welcoming. Teague wasn't alone. Hall of Famer Rick Barry added a sharper critique. The physical treatment Clark endured, he argued, went beyond toughness, it felt targeted. "It's unacceptable." Barry said, and coming from someone who played in one of the roughest eras of basketball, that statement carried weight. What bothered him most wasn't just the contact. It was the example being set. If stars aren't protected, what message does that send? During those early months, every game carried added pressure. Every foul felt deliberate. Every stare felt like a warning. Still, there were no outbursts, no dramatic headlines, only focus. She absorbed it all with professionalism and restraint. Slowly, the energy shifted. Teammates grew more confident. Opponents took notice, even if they refused to admit it. The silence that once signaled dismissal began to feel different. It no longer suggested doubt, it hinted at momentum. Because this story is no longer just about sellout crowds or record numbers, Caitlin Clark is evolving into a presence the basketball world can't avoid. And as her performance continues to speak, the quiet respect from legends starts to sound. Less like murmurs and more like destiny, so what comes next? Stay tuned, this fire is only beginning. From the outside, her rise may appear effortless, but beneath it lies a brewing storm, envy, pressure, legacy, and expectation all converging on a single player. And when someone like Michael Jordan speaks, the entire basketball world pays attention. His comments about Caitlin Clark weren't casual compliments, they felt like a passing of the torch. "She's got that fire," Jordan said. "The kind that makes people uncomfortable," even adding that she's better than every player on the 2025 U.S. Olympic roster. But Jordan wasn't talking about opponents on a stat sheet. He was referring to those who see her rise as a threat instead of motivation. "The way they go after her," he explained. "That's not basketball, it's fear." Coming from a man who spent his career answering doubt with dominance, the message was unmistakable. Block out the noise, stay locked in, and let your game do the talking. That wasn't a motivational speech, it was a roadmap. Jordan understood better than anyone what it meant to be dissected, doubted, and reduced to a symbol rather than seen as a person. For him to recognize that same inner fire in Caitlin was a quiet confirmation that she belongs in the game's highest tier. And the attention isn't only coming from legends of the past. The present is watching closely too. Stephen Curry, often compared to Clark because of her deep range and lightning-quick release, sees far more than a shooter. "The shots grab attention," Curry said, "but it's her control of the floor that makes her special." From a four-time NBA champion whose own style transformed modern basketball, that isn't empty praise, it's recognition of a reflection. Both entertainers, both tacticians, both innovators changing how the game is played. Curry's admiration became public during the historic NBA vs. WNBA three-point shootout, where he narrowly defeated Sabrina Ionescu. The idea of Caitlin stepping into that arena, perhaps even facing Curry himself, no longer feels unrealistic, she's been asked. She's declined so far, but she hasn't closed the door. And the basketball world is waiting for the moment. She says yes. All of this intensifies a question that's now being whispered in hallways and debated loudly on sports panels alike. Is Caitlin Clark carrying the WNBA? The numbers make the case hard to ignore. Television ratings that once struggled are now drawing primetime attention. Arenas that couldn't fill seats for playoff games are sold out for regular season matchups. Brands that previously overlooked the league are suddenly racing to sign partnerships. Charter flights, national ad campaigns, viral highlights, everything seems to orbit the same center of gravity. Caitlin Clark, Magic Johnson, a man who knows what it means to alter the course of basketball history, didn't hesitate when asked. "She's doing for the WNBA what Larry and I did for the NBA," he said, referencing his legendary rivalry with Larry Bird. When they entered the league, they didn't just compete, they revived it. Now Clark's influence is being measured by the same standard. And while many of her peers may not have anticipated being pulled into such a spotlight, they're benefiting from it too. Greater exposure, increased investment, and improved conditions across the league. Much of it traces back to her presence. Still, the reaction from some corners of the WNBA has been complicated. At times, it's felt distant, at others openly hostile. The physical play, the criticism, the cold responses, it's a pattern. That's hard to overlook. Is it pure competitiveness, insecurity, or something deeper beneath the surface? Whatever the reason, it hasn't slowed her down. If anything, it sharpened her edge. For Caitlin Clark, this was never about being universally liked. It's about building something lasting. She's not campaigning to be the face of women's basketball, she's becoming it. Whether anyone approves or not, she keeps stepping into it. Every shot she releases, every arena she walks into raises the stakes even higher. Whether the league welcomes it or pushes back, the transformation is already underway. The game isn't waiting on Caitlin Clark anymore, it's adjusting to her. And what comes next could redefine how women's basketball is played, marketed, and remembered. Stay locked in because the legends are no longer silent. This is the weight of the moment. There's a phrase basketball lifers live by. Game recognizes. Game. It's more than a slogan, it's a benchmark of legacy. And Caitlin Clark has reached that rare space where the greatest to ever do it are paying attention. Not long ago, she was viewed as a college sensation, torching scoreboards and dominating social media with nightly highlights. But since stepping onto the professional stage, her presence has grown into something far more powerful. This isn't about promise anymore. It's about influence. And now, some of the most iconic names in sports history are openly lending their voices to hers. Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, legends whose names are carved into history, each in their own way, have acknowledged Caitlin's intensity and competitive fire. Jordan, famously selective with praise, broke his usual silence not only to recognize her ability, but to challenge the environment surrounding her. His message was direct and impossible to ignore. The WNBA owes Caitlin Clark for what she's done for the game. Coming from a man who built a global empire on excellence, confidence, and dominance, those words carried authority. They weren't just supportive, they were instructive, and he went further. He pointed to the officiating, the physical punishment. Clark has endured, and the league's willingness to look the other way. This needs to change, he said. It wasn't a request. It was a demand. Still, not everyone is applauding. A quiet tension is forming, subtle but unmistakable. You hear it in post-game interviews, notice it in sideline body language, sense it in the carefully chosen words of longtime veterans. Megan Rapinoe, no stranger to pressure and expectation herself, offered a measured but pointed perspective. Without singling anyone out, her message was clear: pressure is part of greatness. Sometimes you simply have to play through it. It wasn't resentment, it was reality. Every era has its trials. The spotlight always casts shadows. Respect, she implied, is earned nightly, but what happens when someone is already doing exactly that? Caitlin Clark isn't asking for sympathy. She's not avoiding tough questions or reacting to hard fouls with excuses. She shows up every game, every city, every headline. She's breaking rookie records, reigniting struggling franchises, and making basketball must-see television in markets that had long tuned out. She's not just surviving the pressure, she's thriving under it with a calm that players a decade older sometimes struggle to maintain. At this point, it's not even about her stat lines, as absurd as they remain. It's about the space she now occupies in conversations that once ignored the WNBA entirely. It's about how she's reshaping the business of the sport. When Rachel Diaz said Caitlin moves the needle, it wasn't hyperbole. Caitlin Clark doesn't just sell jerseys, she redirects advertising dollars. Broadcast schedules adjust around her. Analysts who once skipped women's basketball now build full segments around her impact. She's no longer the next big thing. She is the moment, and energy like that always draws resistance. There's always a quiet unease when someone changes the rules this fast. That discomfort doesn't mean the moment isn't legitimate, it means it's disruptive. And right now, the greatest minds in sports are paying attention. Stephen Curry broke down her shooting form on national television. Wayne Gretzky praised her composure and leadership. These aren't throwaway comments. They're acknowledgments from the highest level. When Wayne Gretzky, the Great One, steps outside the world of hockey to publicly recognize a rookie basketball player, it isn't hype. It's a signal that something uncommon is unfolding. And through all of it, Caitlin Clark hasn't asked for the spotlight. No bold declarations, no media feuds, no self-congratulation. Just basketball. She lets her play speak while the rest of the world races to keep up. When she's hit hard, she gets back up. When questions are loaded with criticism, she answers with composure. When there's pushback from inside the league, she keeps showing up. At times, it feels like the weight of the entire sport has been placed on her shoulders. And instead of buckling under it, she carries it with balance and control. Even while facing challenges far beyond what most rookies ever encounter in certain officiating, quiet resentment, relentless scrutiny, she moves with a rare steadiness. There's an internal rhythm to the way she plays, an unspoken message that says, hit me, doubt me, watch me, but you won't stop me. That's more than skill, that's presence. And presence is what transforms great players into lasting icons. She isn't waiting for the game to evolve around her. She's pulling it forward. The applause, the criticism, the records, the resistance, it's all part of the same current now. A movement driven not only by her shooting range, but by the energy she carries, the conversations she ignites, and the quiet understanding that she's nowhere near finished. Caitlin Clark is no longer just a chapter in the story. She's the connective thread holding it together. So what does it mean when Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, and Stephen Curry all rally behind a rookie WNBA star? We want to hear your thoughts. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more.